So welcome, Happy New Year, everyone. We'll spend some time looking back and looking ahead today. So looking forward to that. I think there's been some awesome stuff y'all have been working on. But we'll go ahead and just go through these action item elements. So the November 12th meeting minutes been set out earlier this week or last week. Looking to see if folks have reviewed those, have any edits, or if we can move to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Lisa. I can second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other discussion, questions? All right. So all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It's
All right.
invisible.
And that was unanimous then. So thank you. We got those moved forward. The next topic is officer elections. In November, when we met, we had a brief discussion on that. If you recall, Carol has indicated she loves us and is doing a great job, but would love to not be in that chair seat forever. So she and I had talked that I was willing to take her chair role, if she would take the vice chair role, and then we also wanted to open it up if other folks were interested in either of those openings. So just taking some time to see if others, I don't think we heard anything via email. Ben, did anything bubble up to your level?
We did not, nope.
Okay. So just seeing if there's discussion and a formal nomination, motion, that whole thing on this topic.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion, Amy, that you're president and Carol vice president, unless someone else has something else they'd like to say before that.
I'd
Thank
second.
Okay, so motion and second, other discussion, comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll do the. Yes, I think I heard Donna second, right?
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, good. So all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Any opposed? I didn't see anybody. So cool. You'll still see Carol around. She's not going anywhere. She just will be doing a lot more back-end work than having to facilitate the meetings, which she's done an excellent job at, but I don't think it was her favorite task. So thank you all for that. Looking forward to helping support the team in that way. Next topic is review of our 2025 goals and committee accomplishments. Carol sent over a list of those accomplishments and kind of breaking it out into a couple buckets. So I'll just touch on it real quickly in case you hadn't looked at that, but there's under the advising front, we had over 10 letters, and then another kind of other recommendation that were submitted. So all in last year, 10 specific letters to various different entities that were drafted and approved by this committee and submitted. So that's a big deal. Advocacy and Partnership Working Group developed their questionnaire and then did meetings with almost all of the council members. Another big deal to get that done. Education Events Working Group. Y'all discussed a lot of different things and did a number of different things throughout the year, but specifically there was the World Day of Remembrance that occurred that was November, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the first of its kind for Winston, and I think there's a lot that was like learned and can be adapted and improved in future years, and was, covered by the news and stuff. So that was really good. Appreciate everybody's work on that. We also participated in the ribbon cutting event for Twin City Trail. And a number of folks on this committee and just citizens worked with the Creative Corridors Coalition on another event to showcase the Twin City Trail. So that was another great thing that folks contributed to. And then the Policy Plan Project Working Group did a recommendation letter to Department of Transportation on safety enhancements to the geographical area surrounding Old Salem. I feel like that's been in the works for more than just last year, but that was formally submitted in March. And then they've been working diligently for a while on the Greenway Infrastructure Design Standards. If you recall, it brought that back to the committee, got some more feedback. They're doing more as a working group. And so that's been a big effort underway. So a lot of great things. We've welcomed a few new people too. So that's always neat. And I'm just very proud of the work folks have done. And I'd open it up if anybody has anything that we missed or anything you wanted to call out as a specific accomplishment or something that was really meaningful from 2025. Nothing. We're all happy it's behind us. 2026, here we come. Well, thank you again for everybody and all your contributions to those various activities. I will, before we jump into kind of thinking 2026, I did want to open the floor for Ben to share some news with us. Ben, if you want to tell us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Amy. So to start things off, the mayor's office is working on approving 2 new members for the committee. So they should be approved by the city council in late January, and they should be able to join the committee hopefully for the February meeting. So that'll be nice to have those vacancies filled.
Yep.
Another update that the committee should consider when thinking about 2026 goals is that I've accepted a new position in Minnesota, and I will be leaving the city in early February. So Hunter's working on hiring my replacement, but the committee will have a new staff liaison going forward, and this will be my last meeting. So it's been really great working with you all, but look forward to welcoming a new staff position to this committee and all the great things ahead for the committee. Hunter can give an update on, the hiring process, and Hunter will be around for the February meeting to assist with that. So
happy to give that update, Ben, and congratulations again to you on that role up in Minneapolis. I know you're going to do an awesome job up there, just like you've done here. So we're sad to see you go, but always happy to see somebody advance on to new things. With all that in mind, our team is moving as quickly as possible. The job was officially posted on Government Jobs today. I sent out a draft, some template language that you can send out on social media, along with a pre-prepared, basically graphic that you can use to promote this job opening. And so if you know folks in the Triad area or across North Carolina or elsewhere who you think would be good fits for this role, please point them to that job opportunity. We'll have it open through February 8th. Again, we're on an aggressive timeline here. We're really trying to get people quickly. We have in the system a desired start date of February 16th. I'm going to be candid with you. I don't think that that's going to happen.
That's very quick.
But all of that to really just emphasize to you all how serious we are about getting that position filled. As Ben stated, I'll be here for the Bike Ped Advisory Committee in February. And John Haynes, if we don't have somebody in place by that first or second week of March when you guys meet, will be handling the second Bike Ped Advisory Committee. I don't anticipate it going much beyond mid-March at this point. We've already gotten some bites. I have a couple of messages on LinkedIn that I haven't opened yet that I'll open up tonight and see what kind of level of interest we've got. But I'm optimistic about what we'll be able to do. To add to that, I just want you to know that it's not just going to be on Government Jobs and on the City of Winston-Salem website. We have also put this out on the APBP, or Association of Pedestrian and Bike Professionals, today. It's out there right now. We believe that that'll give us a potential national and regional reach that we might not otherwise get. Put in a request to NACTO as well today. AMPA, which is the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, that one does require a payment. I'm awaiting the invoice for that. They said that comes in 1 to 2 business days. And then once that's posted, I'm ready to go with the P card to make sure that that's posted, because this is both a city and metropolitan planning organization job. I've also put in a request with the Trail Skills Project, which is a big website focused mainly on trails, but there are some, more government type of jobs in administration posted there. So I thought that could be an interesting one. UNC Chapel Hill and Virginia Tech, both of their planning schools have been sent this information. And then I plan to tackle the rest of my recruitment list tomorrow, which involves sending this out to the North Carolina Planning Listserv, as well as the NCAPA, North Carolina Association, American Planning Association chapter. So with all that, I think we'll get a great field, and just want to congratulate Ben again on that outstanding opportunity up in Minnesota. And just want you to know that the TPO staff has your back. We're going to keep the Bike Ped Advisory Committee meetings going. And as far as a lot of the duties that Ben has been taking on, getting us ready for 2 major feasibility studies that I want to highlight. First, the Long Branch Trail to Wake Forest University Connector feasibility study. We are approaching the point of getting that through the contract execution process, hopefully issuing the notice to proceed around the time Ben is going so it can be handed off to somebody here on staff. I've asked our principal planner, John Haynes, to take the lead on that until we get a new bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. The other major study that you all are probably aware of, and I know have been looking for a while, is the Salem Creek Greenway Low Water Bridge feasibility study. That is in a similar spot in terms of contract execution. We're just waiting on one last legal piece to get confirmed by the consultant, and then we can approach contract execution there. Natasia Hale, our engineering technician, will be taking the lead on that one, again, until we have a new bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. Micromobility is another major responsibility for Ben that you are all aware of. The data piece of that will be handled by Natasia as well, but the day-to-day contract management, those kinds of things, will be John Haynes as well. There are a number of other duties that Ben has taken on that I could get into, but rest assured that TPO staff are trying to balance their current duties against some of those new ones that they'll have to absorb. And we've spread it, I think, in a pretty fair way based on folks' capacity at this time. So our intention is to not let the ball drop, to keep things rolling, and hopefully we can have some good progress reports for you when we meet again in February and in March. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Hunter, for that update. It's wonderful to hear the intentionality and the, I won't say urgency, but intentionality of moving forward to try to backfill a wonderful person. And Ben, it has been a pleasure to work with you. And I hope your time here in Winston has been valuable, and you'll take your good skills and passion for this work to your new place. And I'm sure you will. So
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure working with everybody, and the committee's passion has really been very inspiring. So that's been great to see.
So Ben, what is your new role?
So it's with the city of Minneapolis. It's going to be focused on pedestrian safety projects, similar to some of the projects I work on here at the city. So kind of a similar role.
Okay.
but I imagine you will be part of a team. They probably have multiple people in there.
They do have a little bit bigger staff, and yeah, definitely a lot more, funding availability for projects and stuff like that. So it's should be a good role, I think.
Not to say our DOT and planning folks don't work as a good team, but it's a lot of people who are just kind of solo in their one specific role. So I'm excited for you. You will be very much missed. We are looking at trying to find a time where we could maybe get together with Ben before he leaves, but feel free to message him or, send him your well wishes, whatever. And Hunter, we appreciate all that you and John Haynes and others will be taking on to fill the gaps and keep the wheels turning. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions on that front? All right, so looking at the 2026 goals, I love all of you and your amazing assets to this work. I feel a little weird talking too much about it without a few more of our other committee members here, but I do think it's worth starting to kind of mull it over. And maybe in the future meeting, we can have a draft of goals and formally approve them. It's not a requirement that we have goals, but I think it's kind of helpful to have a direction. Where are we going? Where do we want to focus ourselves? I think this is only the second year we've had working groups. And that seems to be a model that's been somewhat helpful. So does anyone on the top of their head have a specific goal for the committee or any of the working groups that you think is really important to call out and say we should really work on this in 2026?
This is Lisa. I definitely want to continue with the World Day of Remembrance for Education Committee for next year and start earlier so we can make it a bigger and better event, and of course incorporate some lessons learned. Our Education Committee is going to meet next week, so I'm sure we'll talk about that. As well as something you and I have discussed, which is regarding bicycle friendliness and, adding other elements, maybe things that have been tried in the past, like the bike friendly businesses, but incorporating more items that we can do to encourage our bicycle friendliness in Winston-Salem.
Yep. Great suggestions. Anybody else have anything? I mean, in looking at the 2025 goals, some of them were specific, like start, stop, complete, and most of those we did. A lot of them were kind of ongoing types of things we can do, and so I think those could flow well into the new year. One thing that you mentioned, Lisa, and I think is a big kind of paramount thing for us, is the bicycle friendly community application process, which is what we will be focusing on pretty much entirely at our next meeting, which will be in person, because the application is pretty robust and we've got a couple months to help staff pull that together. And now, it's with Ben's departure and other people coming and going, like, I think the committee could really provide support here in, building that out a little bit. So that should probably be a pretty big focus of that. And along those lines, there's elements of the application which include things like the business bicycle benefits, by friendly businesses, things employers can do, and other elements that might spur us to other goals, all that to say. And I appreciate you too, Lisa, bringing up the events, because I think that World Day of Remembrance event was great, and it'd be awesome to have a few more committee members also supporting the Ride of Silence that happens in May, and maybe some other kind of key events. So that would be great for the education working group to kind of look ahead. And I love the idea of getting ahead and working earlier on things. So that's really great.
Amy, I got a question.
Yeah.
On the bicycle friendly application, do you apply for a specific level, or you just a general application, then they apply a level if you warrant one?
I'll let our city folks confirm, but I believe you just apply and they rate you based on your criteria.
That's
Is that-
right, Amy. Yep.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a, like, we qualify right now as a bronze.
Right.
But because communities are continuing to improve, what was bronze, whatever, 3-6 years ago might
Yes,
not.
right. Right.
You might have more requirements to meet that same level. So
Honorable mention.
that might be a category. I don't know. So hopefully we can maintain bronze. And it's definitely something, I think looking at the application will kind of spur us in areas that we could support. But yeah. The only
One thing,
oh, go ahead.
I don't think it's necessarily a goal, but we'd had conversations with the folks at Dash Stadium, And they would like to do kind of a bike to the game event. So I mean, something, I don't know, or maybe the education committee or another committee or something, but just want
Yeah.
to plant that seed.
Absolutely. I mean, I think anytime we can help facilitate those things or connect different organizations to partnering, that's good. And another piece, not to just pile onto that education group. But we had also talked about continuing to build a relationship with the city marketing department and coming up with some kind of like PSAs and other kind of suggestions for them to create content to put out throughout the year, not just during a bike month, not just during walkable whatever day. And you know, there's a lot of things that happen throughout the year where we could take an opportunity to educate folks and whatnot. So I think continuing to do that is important. Yeah, and welcome Ned. Your name is spelled N-E-E on the thing.
Yeah,
Nice to see you.
sorry I'm
Oh.
late, guys.
No worries.
Was in transit. My Verizon's like down. I think it's like there's a
Yeah.
nationwide issue. So
Yeah,
I'll
sorry about
apologize
that.
for them.
We're talking about 2026 goals, and if there was anything pressing that you thought we really need to make sure we add to our list. Otherwise, I think we're probably going to carry over a lot of the ongoing things we were working on last year, and maybe lean on the working groups to develop any other you know, overarching goals. So if you had anything or anyone else, please share. We don't have to define this today, but we thought as we were looking back at 2025, it'd be a good time to look forward as well.
Amy, on the goals, I'm just thinking, is it worthwhile to have a goal where we suggest or work on trying to get a percentage increase in bike lanes or bicycle, signage, infrastructure, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Realizing that we won't always get that, because that's, a lot of that funding's out of our control, but
Mm-hmm.
at least some kind of effort to increase that.
Yeah, I like the idea, John, of some kind of metrics to kind of say, like, we have X amount of, bus stops or the X amount of, sidewalks that need repair, and we want to see that number come down year over year or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it might take some time to figure out, like, what are good metrics to use to, and maybe staff might already be tracking some of those things. I don't know. Do you guys have anything that you guys use in your departments to kind of gauge progress?
Yeah, Amy, I know in, some of our plans, there's different benchmarks, build out, a certain amount of bicycle lanes or infrastructure or close gaps. It really varies depending on the plan. And off the top of my head, I can't really, think of, what those metrics are, but I think that could be a good way to think about, progress for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could pick out some of them that, we think there might be something we can make some progress on, whatever those are.
Yeah.
Basically identify some of those and kind of push towards those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that could be good. Go ahead.
Yeah, one quick note on that. I think a lot of the performance measures we look at are at the MPO level. So what that means is we're looking not just at Winston-Salem, but we're looking at the whole region, all the way up to Stokes, down to Davidson and Davie. So our data may not always be a perfect fit for what you're looking for. I think a lot of the things that you're trying to measure, especially as it relates to maintenance, and those kinds of things that can be accomplished at the city level, may or may not be being measured specifically for the city at this time. But I think it's a great idea, and I think staff have a role to play in helping you get that data, and understand what data is gettable. So I would love to be part of future conversations related to performance measures. And then you can also give us an idea of what we need to measure going forward. I know one of the things that Ben had been an advocate for a long time, and we ran up against some pressure, I would say, and some resistance from FHWA or Federal Highway Administration on eligibility, was the use of a data bike to basically look at the maintenance status of some of our greenways and sidewalk infrastructure. The good news is we've made some strategic steps in the past couple of years, specifically with the adoption of this 2050 MTP that specifically calls out a need for the MPO to fund some sort of service that analyzes the maintenance status of our sidewalks and greenways. It's just a matter of now getting a firm or getting that data bike or some sort of tool to start collecting some of that data. So that was kind of long-winded, maybe a little bit more information than you wanted. But I think if you can consult staff on those data measures, we can come up with a good way of getting you the data that you want so you understand what the baselines are, and then we can move forward from there. But all in all, I encourage the idea.
And just two things I would note is that I heard someone mention the plans, like our walk plan, our bike plan. Is there a transit plan, transit specific, or is that baked into other 2045s and other stuff?
I would say most transit performance measures are baked in. They focus more on asset management. And so are we maintaining a good state of repair? What's our average mileage on our buses, et cetera? I would say the closest we come to measuring, the reliability of transit service comes with our monthly, NTD or National Transit Database reports that we have to file. So that looks at things like on-time performance, ridership, those kinds of things. We also measure that baked in to our congestion management process. And one thing that I think you mentioned earlier actually was sidewalk and bicycle access to transit stops. So that's something that I would say in the last 3 or 4 years in our congestion management process is a designated performance measure. And in the last couple of years, it's increased by a bit, modestly, but more bus stops are now more accessible by sidewalk than there have been in the past. So that is definitely a measurable data point because we do get information on how our sidewalk network has grown, and we also get updated data on where our bus stops are. And with WISTA undergoing some changes to service, it's always worthwhile to check in on that. So transit, I think we've got decent data for the two main things that we look at: ridership, on-time performance, and then overlap with the pedestrian network.
Thank you, Hunter.
Yep.
Yeah, so lots of rich discussion on that, and thank you, John, for bringing that up. That could just developing what type of metrics we would want to be tracking could be the effort of 2026, and then we gather that and we have it for years to come. And it sounds like it's a mix. Some of those metrics are already available in places. Other things might have to be developed, a plan for how do we get this. But I love that. I don't know if there's a working group that fits cleanly into. So I think like the rest of this goals discussion, I've made note here and we can kind of circle back and talk about where we go from there. But I think that's a great point. And the bicycle friendly community application might also, again, kind of make us think, what are they tracking? What metrics do they use to see how different communities fall? So good stuff there. Any other thoughts on the 2026 activities, areas of focus? I'd also open
I
up.
would like to.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say something. I'd love to do the World Day of Remembrance again, and kind of. So I'd love that to put that in our goals as an item for us to do.
Yep, I think before you joined, Lisa had brought that up, and
Okay.
I think there was good support for continuing to do that event, for sure. And if anybody has any guest speakers as well, or just educational topics that you think the committee should lean into from the ongoing learning perspective. One thing I circled on my list is disability advocacy. I I know I've had little bits of exposure to different elements, but I definitely could benefit from learning more on accessibility. And so maybe there's a speaker out there who could come and talk to us about how do you make sidewalks truly accessible for people who are visually impaired or using mobility devices or whatever. So if you guys have other ideas for people you'd like to come.
I've got a good connection at Industries for the Blind, and
Oh.
they'll do that. They'll do that service. So that's a great idea. I'm also involved in the IDD community. If we did want to get a representative from there, I also think Andy. I always mess up her last name. It's like Szabat, Zazbat, or with Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful. I think I would love there to be more collaboration with what she does and our bicycle and pedestrian. She doesn't do a lot with greenways, for instance, which I think is a big opportunity for us to collaborate.
Yeah, great suggestion. I know Carol loves her is it Gardening with Andy or whatever the YouTube series is. I've watched a few of them. They're delightful and informative, and I agree. I think that could be a really good partnership. Thanks, Ned. Any other thoughts? All right, well, if anything else bubbles up between now and our next meeting, feel free to email me or Carol, and we can add that to our list, and we'll probably just resurface this in the next couple of months, just as kind of a reference point, things we want to work on. Obviously, the year has a way of presenting opportunities and new things come up, but I think we've got a lot of cool things we can contribute to in 2026. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Item 6 was request and review, discussion around maintaining bicycle lanes, peer city research. This was, if you recall, during our November meeting, Jeff Fansler, Director of DOT, joined us and kind of put out a request for us to think through, research other communities and develop a recommendation for how we can think about maintenance. There's a certain focus on bicycle lanes, but there's a broader question on sidewalks, greenways, transit stops, other things, and how do other cities manage that? I think we've run up against it a few times. I know I have as a citizen where, you know, you report one issue and it goes to one department and then something else goes to a different department and someone else handles a different thing. And that's fine. But how do we just make sure that those different departments are working in concert, and are there ways for citizens to contribute? So I think it's a bigger topic for us to kind of mull over. I believe Ned suggested that the advocacy and partnership team try to brainstorm a little bit. So I sent an email out.
If anyone else would love to do that, that'd be great.
I think it's fine. If anybody else does want to
we'll
meet,
do it.
George, who's not a committee member, but has been sitting on that working group, sent me some times that work for him in the next couple weeks. So I was going to just try to put something on the calendar here in the month of January to kind of start brainstorming and maybe dividing up some tasks as far as reaching out to other peer groups to see what they do, with the goal of having something to share with y'all in February. I can't remember how firm Director Fansler was on that, needing it by February. Ben, do you remember? Or if you
Yeah, I
needed it
think
by a certain
Jeff's
time?
looking for, some kind of the findings or recommendations from the committee's research by the end of February. So looking at, the committee voting to approve some sort of recommendations for the city to consider at the February meeting.
Yeah, so that's our goal. I get a little heart palpitation because that's a very short period of time. I think in the worst case scenario, we might present something to the committee at the meeting in February. And if there's tweaks needed, we might have to just do an email approval. for a final recommendation before it's submitted to, Jeff, but I think that would be okay, as long as he has it by the end of the month. Right? Or do you think he needs it by the end of February meeting?
I think he said end of month, so I think that sounds fine,
Okay.
Amy.
Okay. So be on the lookout. I will send a calendar invite to everybody and just attend if you can. Or if you're interested in helping outside of a formal meeting, if you just want to research what does Greensboro do for their maintenance or whatever, reach out. I've already done a little bit of research because this topic came up at another time. So we'll see what we can pull together. But if anybody has any questions or initial feedback on that effort, feel free to bring that up now. Well, someone was typing in the chat and then it went away, so assume we're good. All right, how are we doing time? 1:45. All right, the next topic was around street resurfacing project list. I think this went out via email, right? Did others see the resurfacing list? Looks like that.
Yeah, that came out from Carol.
So not a ton of information on here. But I mean, you can see there's quite a few listed on here that are slated to have some kind of resurfacing and restriping work coming up. Ben, remind me where we stand and what exactly you need from the committee today or at a specific time.
Yeah, so the list that was shared with the committee that Carol sent out, those were the result of the city's basically study of the entire street network to determine which sections of street were basically in the worst shape. And a lot of those are, the list included like a lot of dead ends. So there's not a lot of like recommendations that would probably make a lot of sense, but we're just looking for places that catch the committee's eye basically on what, could be improved in those locations. Like I said, a lot of them are dead ends, so that might be a limited opportunity to make safety improvements, for example. But really just whatever the committee's thoughts on those locations would be helpful for the city.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So what does weighted average PCI mean?
So I believe that's the pavement condition index. So that's
Okay.
just the quality of the road surface.
Right. And then it doesn't really say what section, and I'm asking this because, just as an example, 6th Street is on there, West 6th, but it didn't say where. But there's this huge pothole right in front of Millennium Center at 6th and Trade, or actually that's 5th and Trade, I think. So I was just wondering, like, if there's a place where it says where, or how to know where on some of these roads this idea is.
Yeah, Lisa, that's a good question. I can ask about that. I was kind of expecting the list to have like a from or to for the roadway sections, but I'm not seeing that. And I think it's because a lot of the sections are like the ends of streets, so it would just be like that. There's no other roadway that's named that. So that's why the section's not listed. But I can double check on that for you.
Okay, thanks. That'd be great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good call out, Lisa. I had a similar thought, like where on these roads? I mean, maybe some of them are pretty short, but like I know Cassell Street by my house, that's a pretty long stretch of street. So I don't know where exactly. And then the ESTSY column, Ben, what does that stand for?
I do not know.
Because some of these, they vary quite a bit.
Yeah.
Some of them are
maybe it
pretty
was
low.
square yards.
That's what I thought, but then I was like, I mean, square yard. Maybe that's because in resurfacing, you're using a volume, you're pouring. I don't know. Not to put you on the spot, but Michael, I think in an email I saw from you, you indicated a couple you were interested in. Do you remember which roadways those were?
I was just, like my thoughts were like I saw 6th and 26th. So those were, again, a lot of these roads I wasn't really familiar with, and I certainly had that same question, what sections? But yeah, so and Ebert Street, I mean, that's certainly a main thoroughfare, and I'm sure any kind of improvements anywhere on Ebert there's not a ton of pedestrian stuff out there, I don't think, but I definitely have seen people walking down Ebert, and there's a lot of housing and new housing coming up on different sections of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, where are the sections? That's my biggest thing.
Yep. And then the other kind of question I had was, do any of these fall in areas that were identified in our Bike Winston-Salem or walkable Winston-Salem, our two master plans, but given they're such short distances, you're not gonna add a bike lane or a sharrow or something, a sidewalk to a tenth of a mile. Which also raises the question, Ben, is this often how they select which resurfacing projects? Like, cause these are all very short segments. Is this like maybe a year where they're like, we're gonna catch up on all the really short segments and get those up to snuff? And then next year we might pick some longer, or is this the kind of project list that's normally proposed,
So yeah, it's a new process for the city.
Okay.
As far as my understanding is that it's based on the data, just the condition. So I don't know if that's because some of these areas, these like dead ends are currently not paved or just in very poor shape, and that's why they were selected. But I think that this year is a little bit unusual in that it will contain a lot of those smaller dead end sections, and then in the next few years going forward, it'll be focused more on larger sections of streets.
I
Yeah.
Google viewed a lot of these streets, and a lot of them are just in poor shape. You're right. They're little short sections that are tessellated or, just a lot of potholes or whatever.
So I would, from my perspective, without knowing the segments, it's a little hard for me as a committee member to know what I would propose or wanna offer as a suggestion. So do you know, Ben, if there's a way for us to get that information? Or if we aren't gonna get it, then how can we contribute in a valuable way to you guys?
Yeah, I can send that out to the committee. I think a lot of these streets, the majority of them are just dead ends that
Okay.
there's not another street that's called that, so that's the way to identify it.
Mhm.
But as far as streets like 6th Street where there are different sections, I can ask about which sections and
Okay.
get an answer to the committee on that.
Yeah,
Is there like a? Go ahead, John.
I said the vast majority of these sort of sections are in residential area or like suburban residential areas that you wouldn't, have a whole lot of infrastructure. But like Castle Street, that's a bike route there. I mean, I think there might be sharrows that we could put there or something like that. A couple of these sections, I'm sure that you already do that, but there's like crosswalks that need to be repainted and all that kind of stuff.
And that would be incorporated as part of the resurfacing, Ben?
That's the idea that the committee recommendations could be used for things like pavement markings and things that are easier to implement with the resurfacing.
Right.
Mhm.
Do you guys have you have a map that just has all these sections just highlighted when you pull up the greater map, and it's just does something like that exist within your database?
That would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it, Michael? I can ask about that. That would be very helpful. This was the spreadsheet was all that was shared with me, but I can ask about a map because that would be super helpful.
Another thought I have is, as it goes for our recommendations, is there some kind of like base recommendation we can make that says, hey, moving forward, are they even thinking about pedestrian and infrastructure, painting, like I mean, it's like almost like a flip of a mind frame, like, oh, well, we want to make sure we're considering any pedestrian stuff when we're looking at this stuff, and not that it's just leaning on the board or our advisory board to make recommendations, but the folks actually on the street making the initial decisions, like it's just part of their thought process. Oh, this could be, since I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm studying it, and then maybe even just like a notes system that like, oh, that could be a painted crosswalk could go there, or I mean, I don't know if there's some kind of system that we could help develop or encourage. That could be something. I mean, obviously this is, versus here's the map, you got 10 days to figure out what's what. And I mean, I'm exaggerating obviously, but if we can somehow just start to penetrate that, it just mind frame or whatever about roads in general moving forward.
Yeah, Michael, I think that's a really good point and good concern. The city is still, doing their own independent, look at these areas for improvements. This is just a kind of an opportunity for the committee to just provide additional input. So yeah, like we're not trying to just only lean on the committee to recommend stuff, and then whatever falls through the gaps doesn't happen. We are looking at these on our own as well. And some of the treatments that are already out there, at least they'll be going back with the resurfacing how they are, but different standards change over time. So some of those are getting enhanced with the resurfacing.
And don't, I mean, I'm not saying that the city staff is not doing those things. I'm not saying that at all, but yeah.
Thank you for that, Michael. I agree. I think this might be as much a learning opportunity for us, and also process improvement, because a lot of these are probably not going to have huge impacts to bike ped transit. But just being involved in the process will help us. And figuring out, kind of to your point, I think if something's not listed on their list, but we as a committee feel like this is a really important area that you should really tackle this year, what's the process for that? Does that flow into this? Like, could we come up with 10 crosswalks areas that we're like, this needs to be improved in 2026 or whatever? And submit that as part of this, or does that need to be a separate thing? So I think, what department is this under? Who does this process, Ben?
So the traffic field operations department does all the street repaving, and they give the Department of Transportation those sections that will be repaved for us to review. So that's where these recommendations or these sections really came from originally,
Okay.
and they do all that repaving work.
So they both make the assessment of the needs and are the ones to do the work once it's been approved.
A
Or
little bit
who
of both. I'd
assess?
say a lot of the assessment of needs comes from the Department of Transportation, but they coordinate the actual contractors who go out there and mill up the pavement and resurface it.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier guest speakers, possibly whoever's the traffic field office lead might be a great person to come and be a guest speaker at one of our, possibly.
So I think what I'm hearing is Ben is going to try to get a little more insight on specific sections of the roads. Do you need me to list out the ones I heard, or do you remember, Ben, kind of the ones people have called out interest?
I think I should be able to get a good answer for you.
And then is it acceptable to just, how formal does the recommendation need to be? Can you just email that document to, I don't remember when you needed this by.
I think it's kind of the same time frame as the other maintenance recommendations. So end of February would be ideal, I think.
So what I would propose, committee, let me know what you think. If Ben can send that out to just the full group and we review it on our own and then reply via email, if there's something specific you want to suggest, then we could have something to start from in February, because I think we do want to spend the vast majority of our time focused in on that bicycle friendly community application. And so we want to keep other topics. I mean, we're going to have others we need to cover. But if we can kind of do some legwork via email, if something comes up and you're like, yeah, on 6th Street, I definitely think we need X. Put that in an email to Ben and me and Carol, and then we can get a list that then is able to be approved by the committee in February. How does that sound? Any objections to that? And also, I would offer anything you want to put in writing about the process, what you would like to be different about the process. I think there was a suggestion about a map, which was awesome, and whatever else. So maybe just throw that in an email, and then we'll have it in writing. We can kind of put it all together into one document. All right, any other great discussion? This is new for us, so we're learning as we go, and appreciate everyone's willingness to figure out together. But any other comments, questions on the resurfacing project? All right, cool. There are a few informational items we can touch on real quick, and then open the floor if anybody has any other topics. Before we go into the letters, I did want to share some very unfortunate news that Winston-Salem has already experienced its first bicyclist fatality. Looks like on the 7th, a 75-year-old named Thomas Griffith Turnbull was riding with traffic on Akron Drive, and a Freightliner tractor trailer driving in the same direction hit him. They did stay on the scene and they've been cooperative with the investigation. The gentleman did pass away on site. I don't know that there's been more information. I don't know if, Ben, when these things happen, does it flag at the city level to look into it or anything? When there's a pedestrian or a bicyclist fatality?
Yeah, sometimes our department is made aware, but usually it's the police department who handles the investigation directly. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time for us to be made aware. So that's kind of the process that we go by.
Yeah. So obviously I don't share that to like bring down the mood, but it's a real reason why our work is very important. And I hope we can remember that as we do stuff throughout the year. This is an interesting case. I mean, it was 12 o'clock in the afternoon, daylight. The rider was going in the same direction. A lot of times you think of people going opposing directions, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I would be interested to find out a little bit more about the circumstances and what happened, to see if there's anything we can learn. Where on Akron Drive was the infrastructure partly to blame? So I just wanted to share that again. Hopefully we don't have to share things like that much throughout this year, but I do think it is important for it to stay on our radar that our transportation system is not just important for moving people from point A to point B, but like we need to be safe. So I guess if anybody else is good at sleuthing and wants to look up more information in the coming weeks and report back anything, feel free to do so.
I think I just saw where a pedestrian got hit and killed this week.
Oh,
as
well,
well.
see, this was as of last week when I was preparing for the meeting, so that's terrible as well. That was in Winston-Salem?
I think so. I just saw the headline. I didn't dig into it, but
That was on Sprague Street at Thomasville, at that
Mm.
intersection.
So speaking of metrics, I wonder if it's not something that we could not make more work for our city partners. Maybe it's something our committee members can do, but on a quarterly basis, look back at the previous quarter and just, were there any crashes? Were there any fatalities? What were their circumstances? Both for tracking the numbers and hopefully seeing them go down over time, but also just becoming aware of like, what are the circumstances? Is it always a random anomaly? Is it something consistent? But the city doesn't already do that, right? Right.
Hunter, do you have any thoughts on how to maybe go about that? I know our police department, might have some insight into what they're seeing, and or I know the state data kind of lags a little bit. So
That's correct, Ben. Yeah, I think for up to the minute, or I would say current within 30 days data, the Winston-Salem Police Department or Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, depending on where it takes place and when, are the best resources to receive information on crash data. Throughout the years, how we receive that data from each of those entities has changed. But that's certainly data that DOT can get and does get. Um, Primarily at the TPO level, Ben is correct that we rely on NCDOT's bicycle and pedestrian crash data set, along with just their general crash data set. And they do that on an annual basis. They clean that data. It's very rigorously done, but it tends to lag by about a year. So that's definitely something to acknowledge. The last thought I have on this relates to the development of the city safety action plan. As you are aware, it's been quite a bit since the city of Winston-Salem has received notification that they were selected for the safety action plan grant through the Safe Streets for All program. There is no progress yet on our agreement with the Federal Highway Administration. As you may be aware, FHWA has experienced significant reductions in force over the last year, and there have been significant changes to contract language related to the new administration's priorities. And so as a result of that, making sure that we get those agreements right has been a bit of a challenge. It's something important to note that our contact at FHWA has let us know that approval, or at least a next round of feedback on our agreement with FHWA should or could happen in February, but that is speculation at this time based on their workload and other factors. We don't get a ton of information from USDOT at this time. That said, staff are making some pretty significant moves internally to be prepared when we can execute that agreement with FHWA. So for example, by the end of this week, Ridwana Allen, who's the transportation planner here, she'll be taking the lead on the city safety action plan, has drafted an internal RFLOI, or request for letters of interest. That is essentially a draft scope of work that outlines all of the things that we're going to expect from the consultant that we hire from the safety action plan. What that does is it ensures that we are ready to hit the ground running as soon as we get that agreement from FHWA that says we can advertise that. So when we get the green light, there should be very little delay. But I say all of that to basically bring it back around to the point that the safety action plan is going to do some of those things. It's going to monitor bicycle and pedestrian accident history and trends and locations. And ideally, it will also help us develop tools like dashboards that we can maintain on a monthly or quarterly basis to make sure that we're getting those up to the minute data points. So we'll have to ensure that that's included in the scope of work and in the advertisement that we put out. But I would say that the safety action plan is going to be the major mechanism where we will collect that data and continually assess it to make decisions going forward. But while we wait for all of that, there are still things that you, the committee, can do and we as staff can do to identify those locations before we get anybody under contract. That's certainly a function of the MPO is to monitor safety trends. So that was a lot of information, but I just wanted to give you an update on that safety action plan because it's tied big time into the conversations and the data sets that you guys are looking at.
Thank you, Hunter. That's really helpful, and it's great to know y'all are being proactive, so you are poised whenever you can move forward. And thank you, Michael, for bringing that up. I did find the article about this was just yesterday, day before. So that was a 28-year-old woman and a 55-year-old man who were crossing the road at Sprague Street in a crosswalk. Hit by a driver who fled the scene and then was later apprehended. But the 28-year-old woman was deceased at the scene. So it doesn't say speed, but I imagine speed is a factor, right? If you're hit at 10 miles an hour versus 30 versus 50, it makes a difference. But obviously, unfortunate stuff to be happening, especially here right at the beginning of the year. It's not a good way to start things out. But again, we can all do our part to continue to improve things at all the different levels and areas to try to make these occurrences, I don't want to say infrequent, let's make it 0. Let's do vision 0 and not have any more fatalities. So thank you for that input. The other 2 info items on more happier note, there were 2 letters that we all approved and Carol got submitted. I just want to share updates on that. The budget recommendations that we developed late last year for the 26-27 fiscal year have been submitted to our council members, city manager, some other staff. So hopefully they will review that. And there's some talk about maybe our advocacy and partnership team at some point bumping, reminding folks that that's there if they want to review it. The other letter that was submitted was the recommendation for the city's legislative agenda, requesting that the state legislature reinstate the state funding for independent pedestrian and bicycle improvements. This was part of last year's legislative agenda. And we did get a response back from City Manager Pat Pate. Says support for this request is included in the state legislative package to be adopted by the city. Thanks for your effort to promote and support transportation options and safety. So I don't know if that has been adopted by the city yet, but it is part of the draft legislative agenda. So any questions on those letters or anything? I know sometimes we work really hard on letters and they get submitted and it's like, what happened? So I'd like to make it a kind of a process to be able to circle back and let you know if we hear things. So anything on those? Or Ben, have you any updates on your end that you've heard?
Yeah, I think they're still finalizing that agenda. I know that the city council had their retreat this week scheduled, I think starting on Thursday. So I think they are, it's going to be included, I'm pretty sure. But I think they're still just kind of working out some of the details.
It's a no-brainer. They want them. The city wants this money. Why are we not being able to fund projects in this way? So hopefully, I'm hopeful it will be part of that agenda like it was last year. So those were 2 letters. Open it up to anybody from the work groups. I don't know that we've had much traction since we met last time because we took December off and I don't know if anybody met up and did anything, but does anybody have anything to update from the working group perspective?
Education, we're going to meet next week, next
That's right.
Wednesday. Don't forget, Ned, we're coming to your place.
You're on mute. Ned.
Sweet.
Awesome. So then the other thing was just a reminder that our next meeting, February 11th, is going to be 2 hours instead of 90 minutes. And we're going to be doing that in person. I don't know that we've set a location. Have we been to Hunter? Do we know where we're for sure meeting? Can we just meet at that on y'all's office? I don't know where Hunter works. Can we meet at the transportation office, Department of Transportation?
Ben,
That
I'll
was the
defer to
plan,
you real
Amy.
quick.
Yep,
That was the
that's-
plan.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Hunter, if you want to change that with the committee, that's your call now.
I'm all right, but I'm seeing that John was wise to pick the March meeting. I did not know that the February meeting was the 2-hour one, but I am happy to be there with you guys for all 2 of those hours.
Yeah.
I'm just messing around. I look forward to it.
We'll bring
and
cookies.
Good, sounds good, and I think it'll be a really good discussion. I'm loving what I'm hearing from this meeting, and I look forward to being part of it. Let me know how I can support. Then yeah, should be a great February meeting.
Yeah, so we'll send reminders. We'll have an agenda that goes out. Sounds like there's a few areas we're going to be working on specifically around resurfacing and the maintenance recommendation before that meeting. So it's already getting busy this year, but good stuff coming up. The agenda has a few upcoming events listed, nothing really until March, unless anybody has something to add. And if there's other topics, I'll open it up for just a minute. If anybody's got anything else that is bubbled up, questions, concerns, ideas.
So I had one thing from the staff side. I'm going to put it in the chat. I think it's relevant to some of the conversations you guys have had today, reflecting on your accomplishments from 2025, but also looking forward to 2026. The TPO has actually been through a very similar exercise. We're putting this in front of our TAC tomorrow and asking them to adopt in February. But this is our 2026 to 2030 strategic plan, and front and center in it is public involvement and doing better by all of our member agencies. So certainly the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is a major force when it comes to citizen engagement, specifically as it relates to your alternative transportation issues. So I certainly welcome feedback from you. Carol has had a chance to look at it, but the Bike Ped Advisory Committee and the TPO, I intend for us to remain really strong partners, and I want you to see how you fit in over the course of the next 5 years. So as you guys think about what your 2026 looks like, it may be helpful to see what the TPO's got going on. So I'll throw that in the chat and we can talk more in February, but look forward to continued good work together.
Yes. Thank you. We might have to also, bring it up again in February, because I'm going to try to save this document and look at it later, but it's after 5. My brain is fried. But appreciate the partnership, of course. We have such good folks at the city who are doing good things. And I think our committee has got some awesome folks as well. Hopefully we'll have some new additions in February. And yeah, anything else from folks?
Just congratulations again to Ben. This is Lisa. It's been great working with you. Good luck. You might need to bring a flak jacket with you though to Minneapolis.
Yeah, it'll be an
Thank you,
interesting
Lisa.
time, but you're going to do great. And we appreciate everything. So kudos to everyone for a successful 2025. And here's to hoping 2026 will continue our learning and our influencing for making Winston-Salem better, safer. And if there's nothing else, we will adjourn. Cool. All right. Well, everybody, hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you in person in February.
Thanks.
See you, everybody.
See you soon.
Bye.